challenging times. So we wanted to take an hour to work with you today and discuss career exploration, goal setting, workforce preparation, and sector-specific instruction. And we are lucky enough today to have Kaylin Hamilton. She is a professor at Penn State University, but she also supports adult ed programming throughout Pennsylvania with building their career pathways. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Kaylin.
Well, thank you and welcome to today's webinar. We surely are in the midst of uncertain times. Effects from a global pandemic to our nation's recent election result in daily changes. So today we're going to look at several interventions that you can use with students who are trying to navigate these uncertain times by helping them to improve their options for employment. So let's start by taking a look at the agenda. So if we look at the agenda, we see that we're going to be looking at labor market information, career exploration and awareness, planning and goal setting, and then how workforce preparation infuses with all of those things. And then we're going to wind up by looking at some instructional strategies to move from what is typically a career navigator role into the teacher role. And then we'll wrap up with questions and comments. While we are going through the session, there are several times where I'm going to ask you to share your ideas in the chat. So please feel free to contribute your thoughts. And we'll also be looking at a couple videos. So we're going to try to mix it up a little bit so that your time is used wisely. Okay, next slide, please. So as we progress through the presentation, it will become apparent how all of the agenda items fit together and help our students. They are sound practices that work well together during the best and during these most challenging of times. Next slide, please. So let's begin by looking at local labor market information and discuss how that fits into our work and why it is important for us as professionals as well as for our adult learners. Next slide, please. So we're going to start with a quick poll. So choose the best option, and then we're going to see where you're assessing this information and what that looks like in your practice. Okay, so it looks like we're a split mix between all of the above and websites, some working with workforce development partners. Maybe some of our students are looking at this a little bit differently and are using newspapers. Workforce development partners may include workforce development boards. So we do have a good mix. So we have 5, 8, 9 responses, and that is about how many folks we have in here. So it looks like everybody's participated in the poll, which means to me that everybody is accessing labor market information to some extent. So that's great. So as we begin looking at the labor market information, I'm going to be interested in hearing from you, as well as your colleagues interested in hearing from you, what you might do with some of this information. All right, so we can get out of the poll and move to really talking about what is labor market information. So it's also known as the job market, and it typically refers to the supply of and the demand for labor in which employees provide the supply and employers supply the demand. In other words, it's where are the jobs, where will they be, what will you need to do them, and the other kind of information that goes along with that. So let's just take a moment to look at the slide and pull apart the information that we have on this particular slide. We're going to take a deeper look at this as we move through the session, but just at the onset, this slide is an example of some labor market information. So there's no definitive, like, is this labor market information, or these 6 things comprise labor market information. It's really a mix of things that help to inform what the area looks like. So we have employment projections, we have occupations with the most job openings, and we have the fastest growing job occupations. Each of those things is different and means something different. Now, we don't need to be experts in labor market information because we have partners who are experts in that information. So we need to know, what's best to know is who knows that information and who are the experts, so they can help us understand what we need to know. But as we continue to go through these slides, we'll take a look at what is important for us and what's important for our learners. So next slide, please. So by remaining current and using local labor market information, we can provide information to students about jobs that are actually in demand. It can help with planning because both the professional and the learner can know which jobs need workers and which already have an oversupply. It will help inform if there is a reasonable expectation of obtaining employment in any given field. So recent information from September for California shows an unemployment rate of 11%. Next slide, please. So how can you use this information in the classroom? So take a moment to read through the slide and then share in the chat, please, ways that you have used local labor market information in career navigation or classroom instruction. So if you want to just take a moment after you've read through some of these things, because some of these things, if you haven't tried them using labor market information, maybe it's something you could do if you're coming to this meeting as an instructor versus a career navigator or a support specialist. So what kinds of ways are you using labor market information in your classroom? Okay, using the information to help students see what employment, what the prospect is, the outlook for that particular job. What else are folks doing with labor market information? The graphical information helps to give students practice with data literacy. Great, and that kind of goes along with what we have on the screen, reading charts, tables, and graphs, and using that as real life information that can also help them make informed decisions. What else do we have? Anybody else? Bridge adult ed to programs within our college. Yes, absolutely. The colleges use this information again to help define which programs are ones that they're going to introduce, that they're going to continue, which programs don't make sense to continue because there are no jobs available. So as we learn this information and give it to our students and help them to understand it, we can help them make decisions for college. Okay, next slide, please. So one of the resources in California that we're going to take a little bit of a closer look at is the Employment Development Department, or EDD. So the Employment Development Department website has a wealth of information about local labor market, which is really, really important because we want to be able to know, especially in a big state like California, what's in my area, what kinds of things are important, what information is relevant for us where we are, not necessarily for people that are 200 miles to the north of us or 200 miles to the south of us. So again, it's important because it shares local labor market information. So included in the website, information on the website, are exceptional infographics depicting jobs and their educational requirements. Next slide, please. So this is just one example. Note that each of these attractive flyers illustrate the region, the educational skill requirements, job titles, projected openings, and median wages. So included are also relevant definitions for information on the flyers as well as data sources. So in your chat, we've given you the links to find this information. I think we'll also be sharing them all in a document at the end of the presentation. But just for this example, so on the website, on the EDD website, there's a compendium of these types of resources. So these are the kinds of things, because they're great looking. What I used to do when I was teaching was I'd make a bulletin board with all of these types of jobs that both showed the entry-level occupations and the middle skills occupations. You can use these as a teaching tool to really show the difference between entry-level jobs and middle skills occupations, because to the left, the diagram on the left, I'm sorry, the infographic on the left of your screen shows entry-level jobs: fast food and counter workers, cashiers, human health and personal care aides, waiters and waitresses, retail salespersons. When we talk about those, it's a great place where we can also talk about career paths, because if you get one of these jobs, if this is your entry-level job, doesn't mean you have to be in that job forever and always, but it's a place to start. And then from there, we can continue to plan what kinds of jobs and what kinds of promotions you can get. So there are multiple uses for these kinds of resources that are available on the EDD website. Can you think, has anybody used these resources, or is there something that you can think of that you would be able to do with something just for this example? And as I said, this is just one example of the hundreds of resources that are available on that site. Any ideas about how you could use these particular resources? Anything? Yeah, you post them on the walls in your classroom. Exactly. The more you see it, the more people see it, the more they get used to understanding the terminology, understanding what the information means, understanding what the world of work looks like, understanding what kinds of jobs are available. Yep, great to post on the walls. Agree. So, you know, depending on how you are providing instruction, whether you're able to do face-to-face instruction or you're doing a lot of virtual instruction, there are a multitude of ways you can use these, but they are developed and made so nicely that they actually should be, you know, available for students to take a look at. You could also put, you know, 3-hole punch in them and make a couple notebooks for people to pass around if you're able to do face-to-face instruction. The one for entry-level job occupations, if people need to go to work or are interested in going to work immediately upon completion of your class, or even while they're in your class. And then the middle skills occupations require some training, but that's indicated on that graphic as well. Okay, next slide, please. So moving away from local labor market information, we're going to start talking about career exploration and career awareness and how these kind of fit together. Remember at the beginning, we showed that little puzzle that said all of these pieces fit together well. Now, I also want to say that we are just doing a brief scan of these topical areas. And, you know, each one of these could have sessions that could last hours with activities around them. But we want to, you know, just give you an introduction to these sessions or these sections and how they can continue to work together. So we're moving into our next topical area, career exploration and career awareness. Next slide, please. So this slide actually shows the progression that is helpful for pulling the pieces together. Ideally, labor market information should help to inform career exploration and awareness, which then should help to inform career planning, career goal setting. In the perfect world, instruction then supports career goals to the extent possible. But before we jump headfirst into this, it's important to recognize that for many learners, these uncertain times have brought about the need for tremendous change. So we're going to take a look at a way to present this change that may be new to you, or it may be something that may be a refresh for you. It's something that comes in and out of popularity, but it's been around for quite a while. Next slide, please. So in the book, Who Moved My Cheese? Cheese represents our current comfort zone. The story explores how several different characters react to change and leaves readers with some tips for dealing with change. The first thing to realize is that change happens, as mentioned earlier. The labor market will change, and as a partner in the workforce development system, we need to anticipate these changes, monitor the changes, and be ready to adapt. Program staff need to understand that some changes become more the norm for a while, or changes that can keep happening to meet the needs of adult learners and their goals. So next slide, please. If you're not familiar with the book, Who Moved My Cheese, we're going to take a quick introduction to it through a video on YouTube. So if we can start the video, we're just gonna give you a taste of it, because change happens. You need to anticipate and monitor the change, adapt to it, enjoy it, and be ready for the change again and again. So can we start Who Moved My Cheese?
Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson, MD. The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. Robert Burns. Life doesn't always turn out the way we think it will. When change happens, a lot of us have a natural tendency to resist that change. Why? Simply put, we are afraid of change. Change represents the unknown, which challenges our sense of safety and security. This is a very simple story about change. It's about seeing change, anticipating change, and adapting to change. Now, that sounds incredibly boring, but luckily the author, Spencer Johnson, has put a cool little twist on a boring topic and has interwoven the lessons of change into the story of 4 characters. 2 mice, named Sniff and Scurry, and 2 little people, who are the same size as mice, named Hem and Haw. These 4 characters represent parts of us. They represent the simple and complex within each of us. As Spencer put it, sometimes we may act like Sniff, who sniffs out change early, or Scurry, who scurries into action, or Hem, who denies and resists change as he fears it will lead to something worse, or Haw, who learns to adapt in time when he sees changing can lead to something better. The 4 characters leave their homes in the morning.
Okay, so thank you. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to look at the whole video, but it could be something that you could share with your students. How many of you are familiar with Who Moved My Cheese? Has anybody used this in the classroom? Is this a tool that would be something you could use? If you're not familiar with it, you probably can't answer that. But it's with the video, there are a lot of learning opportunities that can take place, particularly in the context of change, which is really what we're talking about through this session with uncertain times. Yeah, the video is great. So I hope you take a chance. Marcella shared the video URL with you. So to take the opportunity, it's not long, but it's a good video, and the lessons learned from it can be something that you can use in your classroom. So next slide, please. Again, that's a shot from the video. So take a moment when we're done with this, maybe on the weekend, and look through it. I think you'll find opportunities to use it. Next slide, please. So career awareness is such an important step along the continuum, but what exactly does that mean? What are the elements that make up career awareness? So I'm from Pennsylvania, and we try to make a lot of tools to make things as simple as possible for our instructors, case managers, career navigators, support specialists, anybody who's coming in contact and helping students with this topic. So we developed a checklist to really review the elements of what matters in career awareness. So this checklist is designed to be used by adult education program staff to develop a comprehensive scope and sequence for career awareness context. For planning purposes, staff can work together to determine which topics to include in their delivery of career awareness and whether topics should be delivered by a case manager or embedded into instruction that align with college and career readiness standards. So you'll see on this checklist, and Marcella has given you the URL to the checklist. We listed the topics, but we made it into a checklist, and we really didn't care who did it, whether a case manager or a navigator did it, or whether the instructor did it, or whether a workforce development partner worked with our students around these topics. What we were most concerned about was that these topics were addressed. So again, we're going to introduce you to some resources. Some are California resources, some are national resources, and some are state resources from states other than California. Next slide, please. So we've identified the potential elements through the last slide for career awareness now, and how and where do we find information to support those? So this slide identifies 3 great resources that can be used alone or together for this process: the Integrated Career Awareness Curriculum Guide, ONET Online, and the My Next Move website. Next slide, please. The ICA is a fully developed curriculum designed to be used in the ABE and ESOL classroom. We've used it for many years, and I've supported it through links trainings. And what I hear from folks that use it is that either some of the lessons seem too simple for my students, some of those lessons are really, really tough, and my students aren't ready for that, or I hear it's just perfect the way it is. So I think you'll find, if you take a look at it, if you haven't already, there will be something in it for you. It's a series of lessons, 47 in total, and accompanying handouts that can be customized to suit your needs. Each lesson includes objectives, materials, vocabulary lists, scans, competencies, and instructions. And the guide is free. That's what's really good about it. It comes out of the National College Transitions Network. The URL for that is on the screen. But again, it's everything you need in one shop stopping. The handouts are all done as Microsoft Word documents so that they can be adjusted. You can change the language of them. What's nice is that you can use all of it in order, or you can pick and choose what makes sense for you. Next slide, please. So the ICA introduces a 4-stage career planning model. It's one they introduce. It's not something that you have to do. So there are so many models that are available. If your state allows it, you can pick and choose the pieces that make sense for you, or you can go with something like this that's already in a package for you to use. So it introduces the 4-stage planning model, and all lessons are aligned to one of those stages. So again, the lessons in the ICA can be used in order. Those are the 4 stages: the cultural context of career planning, self-exploration, occupational exploration, and career planning skills. And they actually build on one another. So if you were using this ICA curriculum out of the gate, you would start with the cultural context, the 7 or 8 lessons in there, then move into self-exploration, followed by occupational exploration and career planning skills. Again, pick out what makes sense for your program. Next slide, please. So ONET Online is sponsored by the U.S. Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration. This comprehensive career website can be instrumental in providing students with information about jobs, including skill requirements, tools that you need to use on the job, educational requirements, job definitions, and job summaries. ONET also links to a number of career assessments, including the Holland Scale, which identifies career interests. Have any of you used ONET Online? Is that something that you use, or that you use with your students, or that you're familiar with? Yes. Yeah, I would imagine you use it quite a bit. Yes, great. I'm glad to hear that, because it's all research-based. It's from, again, the U.S. Department of Labor, our partners in WIOA, and the information in it is, again, what we don't necessarily have to be the experts on. Remember, our expertise is in adult basic education. We can use our partner sites, and we can use our partner information to supplement what we're already doing. So Christy says, it helps me find the words to help students write their resumes. Of course, the skills area and the job summaries provide the perfect words for that, when sometimes the words don't come to us or our students that really can describe what they're used to doing. Next slide, please. My Next Move is also sponsored by the U.S. Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration. Inventories and assessments can be accessed via this website, which works collaboratively with ONET. One of the niceties of My Next Move is that it categorizes jobs into sectors, and that can help learners understand job families rather than just jobs alone. For example, students may be interested in healthcare because they know that those jobs are abundant, they're typically secure, and provide a career path and competitive wages. But what if that student really doesn't want to be around what they think goes on in a hospital and sick people and injured people, but they still think that field is something that's for them? My Next Move, you'll see in the middle of the slide, the middle of the screenshot, gives you an opportunity to browse careers by industry. So if we were interested in having students, as we're doing their career exploration and career awareness, learn about what other jobs are available in the healthcare field, we would select healthcare rather than administrative and support services. And it would give us a huge list of jobs that are available in that sector, in that job family, that aren't necessarily working with sick patients and injured people. So it's a really good place to have people begin to understand what those job sectors are and what those job families are and what kinds of skills are transferable across those across those areas. Next slide, please. So I've often heard from teachers that their learners aren't ready for career choices until they have earned their high school equivalency, or there really aren't enough activities appropriate for low-level learners. So my response has always been the same. I used to teach kindergarten. And when I taught kindergarten, we took children to the fire company. We had policemen come into class. We took field trips to the grocery stores. So all the young children could understand what the jobs are that help a community. So to represent that, we developed leveled checklists. So in Pennsylvania, we are really big on checklists. And again, these go back to the Pennsylvania work that we do. So these checklists identify activities that promote career awareness regardless of a student's level. So you can see with Career Information Checklist 1, which is on the left-hand side of your screen, that would be for our students that come into our classroom with the lowest levels and may not even speak English, but it gives you activities and gives you ways to check off things that you can do with those learners that begin to build career awareness. As you see on the right-hand piece of the slide, that's checklist 4, which is for our highest level learners. And you can see that the activities become much more complex and much more help to promote what students have already learned as they've gone through these. So not all of our students start with checklist 1 and go through and finish with checklist 4. If you're coming in an upper level, you won't even need to do checklist 1, 2, and 3 because you would start with where you are. So again, these were developed in response to folks saying, we really don't have the opportunity to work with students at lower levels because we don't know what to do with them. No, it is not available in Spanish. Certainly, these are available for you. The website Marcella put into the chat, you're more than welcome to download them and use them however makes sense for you. So if you would be willing to translate those into Spanish, we would be very grateful for that in Pennsylvania. So please feel free to do that if that's what makes sense for your students. Next slide, please. Okay, so we've looked at local labor market information, which we have mixing around in the mixer. We've added career exploration and career awareness, and they kind of fit together because we don't want students, if students want to live where they are and they want to stay where they are, they need to know what is the labor market information, and those are the jobs they need to be looking at. They don't need to be exploring jobs and learning about jobs necessarily if they're not available in your area and they have no intention of leaving your area. So we can see how those kind of fit together. We're going to move now into career planning and career goal setting. Next slide, please. Yeah, so words to live by. A goal without a plan is just a wish. So what are the steps to career planning? It's assessing our skills and interests, which we talked about. Those are the kinds of things you can do through the ONET online. You can do those through the resources in My Next Move. You can use some of the resources that you have available. You're welcome to use some of our Pennsylvania resources or resources that come out of your projects in California, but we want to be able to meld them together to start looking at specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound goals, which are lovingly referred to as SMART goals. Next slide, please. So when we're starting to think about planning, it's really important, it's really truly important for staff and learners alike to understand the concept of career pathways and progression along a stated path. So, you know, if we think back to those beautiful resources that are available on the California labor market website, and we looked at those entry-level resources, and then we looked at those entry-level jobs, and then we looked at the middle skills jobs, and we said, you know, maybe people need to get a job now. Maybe they just need that job. but we want to be able to talk about, is it a job? Is it a dead end job? Is it something that, yeah, you can get this job and you can take this job, but what, you don't always want to be doing this kind of work. So what does the path look like for that kind of job? And that is an integral part of career planning, because we want to be able to talk to students about where they can go and what they can be if they so choose. So I worked with a lot of companies in Pennsylvania and done their career mapping for their own organization. You know, they start with entry-level jobs and they show that if you work really hard and you do a really good job, you come to work all the time and you learn these other parts either through training on the job, and you're able to do this, you know, you can move to the next step. You'll have more responsibility, you'll have more pay. And every time I've worked with a company and we've done that career mapping, I've heard the HR people say, you know, not everybody wants to get away. Not everybody wants to have more responsibility. They're happy with the job that they have. They're good with it. And that's where they want to stay. So I think that's another important part of this as well. You know, we're always going to need people taking those jobs on the lower parts of the ladder. And some people are comfortable in those jobs. Some people are very happy with that. But it's still within our responsibility to let them know what are the other places, what are the other steps along those career paths. Next slide, please. So a simple way to illustrate career pathways is through mapping. Generic maps are available and useful, but local mapping, especially with a particular company or a local sector, can be much more beneficial for career planning. So are you working in career paths, and is that something that you do as part of your adult ed program, or do you co-enroll students with other WIOA programs and that's where they get their career pathways information? Or is it something you need to start thinking about now? And that's more of a rhetorical question because number one, we're just doing a surface of all of these. And number two, it probably does require some more thought. A simple way, if you would go to Google and just type in career pathways for a welder, you would get dozens of illustrations about where welders fit into a career map. Some of them have them coming in at the bottom or the entry level job. Sometimes the welder is the top part piece of the job, or sometimes it comes after welder's helper. So it really depends on what your purpose of the career map is. And that's why I'm a really strong advocate of working with your partners and seeing how they've mapped out the jobs in your region and how you can tap into what's already been developed. If you don't have that available to you, it's not really something you can just make up. You need to do your research and you need to talk to local employers, maybe working with your business services at the one stop to help you with that. But again, it's an area where we don't need to be the experts. If this work is already being done, please find a way to access it and see how it fits into your program. Next slide, please. So as we continue to move along this continuum and we take what we've done into consideration, we'll want to use that information to focus on 4 major areas that, according to World Education, are the 4 areas of focus for career planning. So first of all is personal readiness. Are students ready and prepared for what's next, especially if it includes additional education and or training? So when we look at these 4 areas of focus, and again, when we're doing any of this work that we've discussed since the beginning of this session, we're looking beyond what students are doing while they're in their program. We're looking at what's going to happen when they leave our program. We are preparing them for what's next. We should not view ourselves as the terminal program. We are preparing folks for what comes next in their world of work, in their life as a citizen, and how that plays into how we provide instruction. Next slide, please. So personal readiness was the first area. The second area is career readiness. Are learners aware of their own skills, interests, values, and priorities when moving through this planning stage? Do they have the capacity, with your assistance, to set realistic goals and the action steps and a relevant timeline that's going to help them to get those goals? Again, that goes back to making sure we're looking at these goals as SMART goals and being able to check us off the S, the M, the A, the R, and the T. Next slide, please. third area is academic readiness. Are they planning for academic readiness, especially if they are moving into technical areas? Remember, what you're doing with them, and again, I can't say this enough, this planning is for the next step, not what's happening right now. So for academic readiness, we're looking at reading, writing, and math skills to master the technical content if they're going into an integrated technical courses, especially if they're working on an integrated education and training and IET. Do they have the study and test taking skills and the technology skills, the digital literacy skills needed for success in that next step? And digital literacy, really is twofold. With the global pandemic and the shutdowns, we fast forwarded digital literacy, but before we could really improve digital literacy skills, we just had to get them access. That was the first digital literacy skill that we needed to do. But as we have students working in that arena, how are we improving their actual digital literacy skills, not just access? So think of, when you're thinking about digital literacy, think about it kind of as twofold. It's access, it's getting people on a computer, getting them the internet and whatever they need to be able to do the work. But once we have them engaged, then how can we increase those digital literacy skills as an employability skill? Next slide, please. College knowledge readiness, the ability to navigate the college culture, the environment, and the procedures, familiarity with college admissions and financial aid processes. Again, this isn't something that you need to be the expert on, but you need to know who can help you and help your students understand what this looks like, particularly navigating the college culture. Sending somebody to an admissions in a college is not the way you want to do it. You need to know somebody there that's going to meet that student and help them through that process of whatever they need to do to become a student at the college. Next slide, please. So how do you get learners to be able to make these decisions and choices? A strategy that we'll discuss in the next few minutes is called motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing is a form of collaborative conversation for strengthening a person's own motivation and commitment to change. Motivational interviewing may be something that you're familiar with by that name, or it may be something that you do, you just didn't know it was called motivational interviewing. But we're going to take a few moments to look at it and how it can be included in goal setting activities with your students. Next slide, please. Motivational interviewing is an effective technique for multiple arenas. So as we're looking at it, we're, however, looking at it to help us guide change. So we're going to be using open-ended questions. We're doing affirmations. We're especially going to work on reflections and having our students summarize what we're discussing. So we're going to take a deeper look at motivational interviewing. Next slide, please. So read along with me as we look at this slide. So motivational interviewing, MI for short, those kinds of skills can be used to keep discussion students centered and help students by having them do the talking rather than having us talk at them. Through the use of these skills, you're going to learn how to use more open-ended questions instead of closed-ended questions, because as the learner is answering these questions, listen for change talk. Listen to how they're talking about how they want to make change and ready to commit for change. Use the skills of reflection and affirmation to help the students commit to change, and then remember to have students summarize their plan for action and what those action steps look like, as well as the timetable for achieving those action steps. Next slide, please. So these are just some examples of open-ended questions. And it's something that, this is just a little bit of a sidebar. In Pennsylvania, we have our own employability skills framework. It's called the Foundation Skills Framework, and it includes a self-assessment. And I noticed when we were doing these self-assessment, it's not open-ended, it's closed-ended. It's yes, a lot like me, somewhat like me, whatever. And I noticed that a lot of students were checking always like me, always like me, always like me, always like me, everything they were doing perfectly. So I decided to change that up. And instead of keeping it just closed-ended, when they answered something that's a lot like me, always like me, always like me, I asked them to give examples then. So if you say I am a good team player, and you say, yes, that's always like me, I've changed the questions around and I've made them now. Tell me a time when you were part of a team, and how how did you react to that? Because what I wanted to let them know that is when they go for interviews, they're not going to be closed-ended questions. They're going to be open-ended questions, and you're going to have to explain yourself. So this is helping them not just to prepare for making this plan for their careers, but also giving them some practice in really having a discussion and making discussions. Next slide, please. So what kinds of questions are the ones that reflect and affirm? If you look at your screen, you'll see that those are the types of things that will help our students reflect on what they're doing through this change. Next slide, please. Okay, so with this student-centered approach, students will develop their own ideas on how to change behaviors and make a plan for moving forward. Before you offer any ideas or suggestions, ask the students for permission. I do that in my own life. I don't just do it with students. I don't work directly with students full-time anymore. I do some work every month to keep myself grounded. It's so easy when you're in the professional development arena to forget what students look like. So I make sure that I always am in contact with students to that grounding. So would it be okay if I talk to you about some ways other students have overcome this challenge? Did you ever think about trying this or that? Sounds like you're quite not sure what to do. Can I offer a suggestion? So you're giving them the opportunity to take your suggestions and what might make sense for them. Next slide, please. So we're going to just take a minute or two to look at an example of a sample of motivational interview. So Katie, if you could get that going for us.
Thanks for coming in. Tell me what's been happening since we last spoke.
Well, I did get an interview for a job.
Wow, that's so great.
Yeah, but I wasn't able to go because my kids, I didn't have anyone to watch them, and you know, so that was sort of game over. I had to cancel the interview, and it's too bad because it was actually was a job that would have been good, but I don't know.
You sound disappointed.
Well, yeah, because it's you know, I didn't really have a choice. I have to make sure my kids are taken care of first, and you know, I'm worried that this is gonna keep happening.
It's going to keep happening that you have to turn down opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell me on a scale from 1 to 10, how important is it for you to get a job?
It's about at a 10 because, yeah, I mean, I'm the only one supporting my kids, and you know, it's just what I'm getting from welfare is just not cutting it. So
Okay, we're going to need to
soon
stop. But I am going to, again, suggest that you watch through this to pick up the idea of motivational interviewing. It's a learned skill. It's something that, you know, if you read through some notes and you look at this video, I think it's something that most folks will be able to pick up rather quickly. But it allows the students to take ownership of what they're talking about. You notice in the video, in the YouTube video, that the student explained herself. She was required to explain herself because we didn't give them the opportunity for yes or no answers or A, B, C, or D. You know, explain to me why it's going to be difficult for you to get to work every day. So, so I would encourage you to take a look at that video as well. Next slide, please. So our final component in this process today, before we actually look at academic instruction, is workforce preparation. Next slide, please. So you can follow along with me. From teaching skills that matter, workforce preparation is one of the components of that. And it means the knowledge, skills, and competencies that when developed and demonstrated prepare individuals to obtain or retain employment or to advance in the workforce. These skills include interpersonal and communication abilities such as teamwork, collaboration, and customer service. Workplace competencies included demonstrated professionalism, critical thinking, system thinking, as well as digital literacy. So in a nutshell, it's the skills that folks need to get a job, keep a job, and advance in a job. Next slide, please. So we can use ONET to help students understand what those skills look like. And that's available in the job summaries. And you'll see that on your screen if you can see it. What you're looking at are not the, those are the job skills that are needed. And the next slide, please, will show you how the information is segregated in those job summaries. Now we're looking at the workforce preparation skills. You need to be a welder, you need critical thinking skills, you need operation and control skills, you need monitoring skills, and you need reading comprehension. So the ONET summaries is a great place to help pinpoint specific employability skills that folks will need with specific jobs. So again, you can see how that fits into this whole idea of career planning, career awareness, and everything that we've talked about to this point. So this can be introduced a little bit earlier or later once students have decided on a job and the plan that they're going to get to. So again, the entry-level jobs require pretty much a standard set of employability skills. But as we begin to look at more specialized jobs, we see that there are more specialized skills that folks need to be successful in those jobs. Next slide, please. So the employability skills framework was something that you had a session on. So there is a recorded webinar on the CalPro website. So I believe that, yes, Marcella put it into the chat, and that is available for you to get more information about the employability skills framework. But again, it centers around these employability skills or soft skills, which may be a word that sounds more familiar to you. And then our final step, next slide, please, is to look at instructional strategies. Because if you remember that series of arrows that we had at the beginning, we want to talk about how career exploration and career awareness lead to career goal setting and career planning. And then to the extent possible, how can instructional strategies support that for individuals? So now that we've done all of this to help learners make wise and informed decisions about their futures, what strategies can support these paths? Next slide, please. 3 definite instructional strategies are illustrated on this slide. Project-based learning, problem-based learning, and integrated and contextualized instruction. So we're going to take a look at, again, the teaching skills that matter and find these strategies. Next slide, please. And we're just going to look at the definitions again, because again, we're just doing a brief overview. More information is available on the LINKS website about these instructional strategies, but project-based units of instruction result in the creation of a project or a product that demonstrate that students have demonstrated these skills and content so that they become successful in a project. So project-based learning units require an array of basic skills and those employability skills, including communication and collaboration, critical thinking. The project can be related to building learners' knowledge of community needs or to careers and jobs, changes in the workplace, or academic subjects. Again, the LINKS website has an enormous, a wealth of information about project-based learning and what we're going to look at next. I don't want to get tongue-tied here. Next slide, please. Project-based learning, problem-based learning, and again, contextualized instruction. So problem-based learning is different. Instead of presenting facts and concepts directly, problems are used as the vehicle to promote student-centered learning as concepts and principles. So during the course of the problem-solving process, learners will use analytical reasoning and creative thinking skills to consider solutions and consequences. Instruction based on this approach culminates with students developing or written or oral presentations to describe how they would solve the problem. So they're not necessarily doing a project here. It's really looking at a problem and coming up with solutions to that problem. Next slide, please. And then integrated and contextualized instruction. In planning for that kind of instruction, the focus is on using relevant content areas as the context for instruction. This kind of lesson builds on content knowledge while simultaneously integrating instruction in and in practice with the following: reading, writing, math, language acquisition, and soft skills. And research suggests that contextualized curriculum instruction has the potential to accelerate learning for underprepared adult learners. So when we think about ways to bring this all together, if we think about the career awareness, the career exploration, the career planning, we don't want to go through all of that and hand students a workbook and say, here, practice these skills so that you can obtain your high school equivalency. How can we wrap our instruction around what students have spent so much time and energy, and us as staff, to help them make good decisions or sound plans for their future? How can we incorporate different strategies into what we're doing so that we provide them with the best bag of tricks when they leave our programs? Next slide, please. So that pretty much wraps up our fast forward through this whole process of how we can maybe strengthen what we're already doing, or looking at some ways to help our students through these most difficult times that we're facing as professionals and that they are facing as adult learners, sometimes with skills that really need to be enhanced for them to be able to have the best futures for themselves and for their families. So does anyone have any questions or comments before we close the session? If you do, take a moment to write them into the chat area. You're very welcome. I appreciate you coming out on this Veterans Day afternoon. Thank you for those of you who have served our country, and thank you for all of you for the hard work that you do. It's a tough field to be in at any time. Okay, and we also have the references, a couple slides of the references. And if there are no questions or any additional comments, I'll wish you a good afternoon. I'm on the East Coast. It's dark and it's pouring down rain, so it's kind of gloomy here. But thank you for coming. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks so much, Kaylin, for a wonderful session. Before we go, I do want to point out that Vicki did put into the chat our survey, our evaluation. It always helps us get that information so that we can improve our sessions and think of new ways to connect and help further your work in the field. So thank you, all of you, for attending. And Kaylin, thanks as always. As I said, it was great.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah. And before we go, I can try to copy and paste all of our resources. I was trying to upload the document. It was not working. Oh, no, it won't let me put that many in at a time. Oh, maybe it will. All right. Thanks so much, everyone.